What's up, guys? Brand new intro. That is actually a banger, Brandon. I really love that new intro. You guys are live in the home field studio. Thank you for joining us tonight. Got a loaded episode. We've got one of the biggest weeks I can remember in college football. Guys, great to be with you tonight. Brandon, Caleb, just right off the bat, Caleb, thoughts on the slate of games we've got this week, man?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's going to be a fun college football weekend. You've got a lot of top ranked matchups that are going to be pretty interesting to watch and see who comes out on top. I think it can, really shake out some, if you want to quote it this way, contenders and pretenders. I mean, it really will kind of sort that top half from the bottom half. And I think it's going to be a good week of college football.
Brandon, same thing, man. How you feeling? This is a massive week.
Absolutely, it's exciting. There's a lot of excitement in the air, even not being around necessarily a big college, in the area. Like I'm kind of stuck in the middle. There's a lot of excitement around Mizzou playing at the Dome this weekend in St. Louis against Memphis. It should be a great game. Looking forward to it.
No, man, I'm right there with you, dude. One more time, that intro has got me freaking amped up right now. I love that beat that was playing. Boom. Awesome, guys. Let's get right into it. Like we said, massive week, but let's look back a little bit. Through the first 3 weeks, what is one thing you guys have learned overall? What have you learned about college football this year? Brandon, I will start with you. What is one thing that you've learned through 3 weeks of football?
That the Pac-12 is an absolute monster of a conference right now. It's a shame that it's falling apart in the way it is, with the way the year has been for the Pac-12. It really is a bummer, And you got to look at some of the TV deals and stuff. If you're ESPN or ABC, whoever like that, you kind of got to be kicking yourself in the leg a little bit by not offering a little bit more for this conference, because it's not just going to be this year. It's going to be 2 or 3, 4 years to come that this conference is going to be one of the best in college football.
Yeah, no, that's totally great point. It really, it's unfortunate. Caleb, what do you got, man? 3 weeks of football so far. We've seen some highs from some highs and some really good games. We've seen some lows, some upsets that we didn't expect. What have you taken away from the first 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think kind of piggybacking off Brandon, you see a lot of these teams that have been dominant in the past struggle a little bit this year. Georgia hasn't, they're undefeated, but they still haven't looked great. Bama's lost a game already. There's a lot of things that are out of the norm, I guess. And I think that's all due to a lot of this transfer portal stuff. You're really starting to see it take effect in, some of these other schools having success compared to these schools in the past that used to dominate recruiting and just get all the top guys. And, that was your top schools. You look at Clemson, they've went downhill a little bit. They lost their opening game and, they don't look that great this year either. So I think some of those teams that have been in the top year in and year out are struggling this season. I think that's the NIL deals and transfer portal are leveling things out a little bit.
Question to both of you guys before we move on. What is your stance on the transfer portal now? Because in my opinion, I don't love the guys that move 4 times, but I like the guys who leave a big school and maybe go to a smaller school, quote unquote, a smaller school, and then they pop up and they're playing really good football and making these other schools more competitive. I think the transfer portal's definitely made the game better overall. How do you guys feel about the transfer portal, Brandon? Kick us off with that.
Yes, overall, I think the transfer portal, the way it all works out with NIL and whatnot, I think it's evening out the playing field, because there's no, kids. I wouldn't say most high school kids, but if they have the opportunity to stay closer to home, I think that plays a big part in it now with the NIL deal, is that they can get that kind of money by playing for a school that they grew up watching, that they cheered for, that they went to games at, throughout their life. So I think that's a big part of it for me. I think it's going to even out the playing field. It's going to open things up when it comes to kids not wanting to transfer too.
Yeah.
because of NIL deals. Like they don't want to lose that money now. They don't want to lose the income and the profit they have coming in.
Caleb, transfer portal, positive, negative. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it can be looked at both ways, but I'm kind of on the stance you are. I think it's fantastic for the guys that maybe transfer once or twice for a better situation for them, but those guys that just school hop 3-4 times, I think you're starting to see that kind of be controlled a little bit with some of these waivers not getting granted for different guys, even in college basketball too. Same situation. You guys are jumping from school to school to school. Well, they're starting to kind of regulate that with some of these waivers that are being denied. And so for those guys that are doing it for the right reasons, whether it be to you, Brandon, they wanting to play closer to home, or they find a situation that's just better for them, maybe where they went wasn't they thought it was a good fit, but then they get there, get into the program and figure out, well, this is not the place I really want to be. I think it's guys.
I think you guys both hit it on the head there. The mixture of NIL and the transfer portal are definitely changing things. Allison, the limit I think is coming a little more. It looks like with the situation with the UNC receiver and some of these other guys getting declined. I think the limit is being set as we go. It would have been nice to know the limit when we first started, but we're slowly getting these things hammered out where these are the parameters. We'll follow these going forward. Right. But I like the transfer portal. I think it's made the game better. But Brandon, what do you got on that?
And I know just talking more like it's probably more on the NIL side of things is that I did see something this week. I think it was the Ohio State AD was talking about how recruits are like asking for like $5,000 just to come for a visit. I think that's ridiculous.
It's pretty insane.
To be honest, that's dumb. Don't do that kind of stuff right away. To me, it makes a bad impression. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
And I think that probably starts based on the school. Like a school probably gave that kid $5,000 to come, and then he expects that at the next school, and that's how that starts. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, you get 5,000. This is just the generalization. You get 5,000 from Texas A&M. You go to Clemson. You're like, oh, why am I not getting $5,000 to show up here? Like it's just a generalization. It's not meant to call anybody out. I don't know who's doing it, but I think that's more likely is they got that money up front somewhere else, and then that becomes the expectation by the kid going forward. But that is absurd. You're getting it's a free visit. You're not even like it's not you're not paying for anything. If anything, you're getting treated better than what somebody normal would get treated there. Like because they want you. That's a great point. Kind of upsetting. Next question for you guys. Let's move on. A lot of good conversation there. Who is the best conference in college football right now? Caleb? Who we got, man? Best conference in college football right now?
I mean, as much as I would love to say the SEC, they're struggling right now. And to, Brandon hit it on the head at the beginning of the episode. I think you got to say the Pac-12 right now. They have been really strong these first 3 weeks of the season. And I mean, it's hard to argue with a record where they barely lost maybe a handful or less games. Yeah. I mean, that's hard to argue at this point in the season.
Brandon, same question to you.
Yeah, and it's hard to not look at the Pac-12 and go, that's the dominant conference right now. The only difference when you talk about the SEC is that the SEC teams usually play a little bit tougher competition to start the season. Usually, not all the time. But you look at Texas, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee. Within the first 3 weeks of the season, I think it'll eventually even itself out. As much as I like the Pac-12 and how great of a conference it is right now, I'm sure it's going to even itself out when it comes to kind of more of the conference play. I think that's where the Pac-12 is going to be figured out. Like there's a big divide on the really, really, really good teams, the good teams, and the not so good teams in the Pac-12.
Right.
Where the SEC is kind of like this more even.
I still think that's pretty close in the SEC, though. I mean, they have some bad football teams at the bottom.
They do.
And they've always been bad at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I think there's still a conversation to be said. Like if you want to go conference top to bottom, I do think the SEC probably has a slight edge, but at the very top, I think the Pac-12 is deeper at the top.
Yeah.
But I also think that if you're looking at it that way, you've got to bring the Big Ten into the conversation when they have three teams in the top 10. About if we're just talking about our best three teams, I think our best three teams, if we go, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State versus USC, Washington, Oregon versus Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss. Like, it's still close. I would probably lean at this moment Pac-12 or Big Ten, but I think there's some really good football, and the depth of quarterback right now in the Pac-12 is absolutely insane. Yeah. There's potentially 6 probably guys who may be drafted into the NFL out of the Pac-12 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the top passers in the country are all, Pac-12 guys. They've got 1, 2, 3. And if you take into consideration that Caleb Williams doesn't have to play, half the fourth quarter, they could have potentially 4 guys in the top 10 in passing right now.
Right.
So it's pretty insane the way they're playing the position.
That's fair. That's fair.
So are you going Pac-12, Brandon, or are you sticking with the SEC?
No, I think I'll stick with the Pac-12, saying that, I've said it since we started things that the Pac-12 is going to be and is one of the best conference in college football right
now. Caleb, what do you think the SEC can do? Is there something they can do going forward to get back and outright claim that spot besides Georgia repeating as champ? I mean, I don't think anybody doubts, the tip top of the SEC, but is there anything else that they can do to change your mind?
I think it just is a matter of, like we've said, things are going to even themselves. I think as we go through the season, I think really it's those teams have really got to click and, really find their stride, because that's what you're seeing at the beginning of the season so far. Several question marks at, you take Georgia. They're undefeated. They got question marks at quarterback. They haven't looked the greatest. Tennessee, they went down to Florida, struggled at the quarterback position, and lost that game. Alabama clearly doesn't have a quarterback on that roster that can have success. So I think it's, you're starting to see, as we mentioned it, the transfer portal and those type of things pull more talent away from, your Georgias, your Alabamas. And so those teams aren't stacked with roster, 3-4 spots deep.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. The talent is much more dispersed now. Quick question for you. I know you got a little bit of bias here, but do you think Jackson Dart's playing the best quarterback in the SEC right now? He's playing the highest level of quarterback in the SEC right now?
If I had to say right now, yes. If you look up and down at the quarterbacks in the SEC right now, he's clearly at the top of the conference, because, you've got, like we said, Alabama doesn't really have their guy yet. Carson Beck at Georgia looks okay. He still doesn't look like he has a handle on the offense. You've got KJ, who's struggling right now just because we're having offensive line issues. You've got, Tennessee, they're struggling at quarterback. I think so right now when you look at it, going into week 4, I would put Jackson Dart at the top of the SEC right now.
Brandon, same question to you. Is Jackson Dart number 1 for you in the SEC right now?
Yeah, I don't see how he's. That's the guy from Ole Miss, right? Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of quarterbacks. It's hard to keep up with everybody. Sometimes.
No, I know. Yeah.
He showed it the first week of the season to me that that he's if not the best quarterback in the SEC. 97% completion rating in week 1. How often are you going to see that in the first game of the season?
Right.
It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, nope. With you on that. Got a comment in here from Dylan on Facebook. So what happens when the Pac-12 teams leave the Pac-12? Well, Dylan, they are already leaving. There's 2 teams left in the Pac-12 right now. We understand that they are leaving. The Pac-12 is going to try to probably get join with the Mountain West, I would assume is their best option. But I also think what Oregon State and Washington State have done is make themselves very, very valuable by playing good football this season. Now, that's obviously not a long-term thing, but if you look at those teams right now, you could see where there's foundation for them being good football teams going forward. I think they've done that a good job in that. What are your thoughts on that, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Pac-12 overall, it's pretty loaded right now, from almost top to bottom. But yeah, Washington State and Oregon State have put themselves in a position to be like, hey, we're good, come and get us, kind of deal. I did see the thing about the pack, at least those two teams, and like the thing that's come out about the regulation, and it's almost like what kind of like how European soccer works sometimes. If you play really good, you get put into this bracket. If you're bad, you get put down against some like lesser competition, and it's just like a back and forth thing. How that would work out, I don't know. I haven't read too much into it, but
that'd be rough. That'd be rough, man, to go from Division 1 to Division 2 just because you had a bad year.
It'd be cool though. You get to see different, new teams every year that are, hey, you beat these guys who are in, the top side of things, and you're in 3, so you're going to jump up to 2 while they fall into 2. It could be fun.
Yeah, no, it would be interesting. It just would be there's so many teams, it would be hard to keep track. Caleb, thoughts on Washington State and Oregon State, making themselves appear more valuable by playing good football. I mean, I think they've made themselves look like teams you might want to go get and bring into your conference at this point. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. It's like everybody else jumped ship, and they're like, well, we're going to essentially stay put, play Pac-12 brand football, and, look at them, both sitting up there in the top of the rankings right now. Like you said, they're sitting there looking very valuable right now for, if they do like manage some type of merge with the Mountain West or something like that. You start looking at them like they didn't jump ship. They are the guys that essentially started rebuilding the Pac-12. So I'm really impressed with what they've done so far this season.
Yep. No, let's. I look forward to seeing it because I mean, is it great? No, but think about Boise State, Washington State, Oregon State, San Diego State. You get some of those good Mountain West schools. I mean, there's still solid football to be played out there. Okay. I know I'm leaving some people out. It's more of a general statement, but Brandon, what are you thinking there?
Yeah, when it comes to if that happens, if the Pac-12, the Pac-2, Washington State and Oregon State do just decide, hey, we're just going to go to the Mountain West. I don't see an issue, too much of an issue there. Besides, you're looking at a whole new, not power. I guess you could throw it as a Power 5 conference. I mean, you almost have to throw it as a Power 5 conference. But you're looking at, if you're Washington State and Oregon State, is, hey, we're going to be the dominant teams in this conference for a little bit of time till these other schools can get up to par with what we already have. So I mean, if you're looking at the success aspect, then yeah, I'd say you go for it.
Yep, that's I have the same exact feelings. Make yourself irreplaceable type, that type of thing. Let's move ahead, guys, to our pick'em update. Oh, wait, Dylan's got one more question.
There's another one
if
too.
Colorado beats Oregon this weekend, are they a serious contender? Also, go Bucks. Appreciate the go Bucks. Dylan, and then we'll answer you, Seth. Dylan, if Colorado beats Oregon this weekend, I got to come out, dude. All bets are off. All bets are off at that point. That is a college football playoff style win. That is something that everybody in the country will have to take serious. But let's take into consideration that they are 21-point underdogs in this game for a reason. Mm-hmm. But if they are to pull that upset, and I don't know how you two feel about it, you guys obviously chime in here. That's a game changer type win for Colorado as a program, in my opinion. Brandon, what are your thoughts on a potential upset like that?
Absolutely. I mean, it, like you said, it's a potential, changing. The word I'm trying to think of. You literally just said it.
program changing. Yeah.
Program changing win for them, because it shows that they can compete with, even without their best player, that they can compete with the bigger schools. Like, I mean, not that, but the more powerful, more better performing schools than Colorado.
Caleb, same question. I mean, that's a massive chink in the armor of established programs like an Oregon. What are your thoughts on a potential upset there? I mean, massive.
I mean, yeah, that would be crazy, and I think it would have, big implications. Just like we said, for them to, come in year one under Dion and say knock off an Oregon, that would be big time for him and that program. But not to mention, especially just after the way they played last week, that would be big for them to come out this week and show, okay, yeah, we struggled last week, but there's some resiliency there. And I mean, plus you look at it, the stat came out this week. That game ended at 2:30 in the morning there.
Yeah.
And it had like a record number of viewers, like 1.9 million viewers. So what is it going to do when these two teams play? And if, say, Colorado does pull the upset, that just is going to skyrocket those numbers even more.
Yeah. Great point.
Here's the thing with this, though, is that if you're Colorado, you beat Oregon, you still have to beat USC. You still have to beat Washington. You still have to beat UCLA. And you're going to have to play one of those teams again in the Pac-12 championship just to get to the college football playoffs.
Right. But, Brandon, think about this.
Big road.
They upset Oregon this week.
Yeah.
How massive is that game next week with USC?
It's huge.
That's a top 10 game potentially if they can beat Oregon.
Yeah.
I don't think they can do it personally. We're going to talk about games of the week and things like that next. But holy hell, that would be huge. Don't want to miss you here, Seth. Would it be easier for them to just join the Mountain West and dissolve the Pac-12 altogether? Well, Seth, there's two teams left in the Pac-12 at this point, and they don't have a TV deal. So I think we've been kind of saying it that way, but we keep using the word Pac-12. It would become probably a new conference name, if anything. But I think you're right. It would be easier just to join the Mountain West at this point. But I'm guessing Washington State, Oregon is holding out for more money. Is that what you guys are thinking?
I'd imagine so.
I mean, that's
got to be. What else is there besides more money? I mean, at this point, and maybe a better TV deal, I would assume.
Yeah.
So, and I also don't know if it's been mentioned. I saw something a few weeks ago between, I think it was Oregon State and Washington State, filed some type of paperwork against the Pac-12 commissioner saying, hey, you didn't do your job in trying to keep this conference together. So I don't know if there's going to be anything to come out of that in the future as things get figured out. That could be something that could be interesting to watch as well.
Yeah, good. No, thanks for bringing that up. That's a great point. So now that we've kind of covered all those bases, let's jump over to Pick'em. You might not be able to see it in the corner, but right now, Caleb is leading us with 26. He's 26-11. Brandon is in second, 25-12. And somehow my numbers are messed up at 24-13. I'm not positive what keeps happening every week while I keep missing all these questions. But great job, Caleb. Great job, Brandon, so far. You guys have been good. And if you go on to our college pick'em on ESPN right now, Brandon, we are tied for 7th. Caleb, you are tied for 3rd in our college pick'em on ESPN. And Ted Ertl is still leading. He's tied with Rad for first place. So shout out to everybody on our college pick'em on ESPN. Appreciate you guys being on there. Obviously, don't forget the top 3 win merch. Guys, pick'em. How you guys feeling? You guys are unfortunately beating me right now. I don't love it. But Caleb, you're leading us. So can you tell us what your secret is at the moment?
Back on top, it's a nice place to be here. But, I mean, go with your gut. That's all I've got for you. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, you look at the matchups, really, you can study them all you want, and I think that leads to more confusion. And so, you gotta go with that instincts and, just pick the winner.
Brandon, as first loser, any suggestions for us to make our picks a little bit better?
No, I mean, should like Caleb said, I went with my gut instinct on some of them, and I should have picked Mizzou.
Yeah,
beat Kansas State, and I would have been set sailing instead. And I probably should have not picked Arizona State either. I didn't realize Fresno State was that good. I really didn't.
They looked really good.
You shut out a team like that, 29-0. That one surprised me.
Before we move on, since you brought it up, 61-yard field goal to win the game on this level is absolutely incredible. Insanity, that kick. Shout out to do you know his name? Missouri kicker? Whatever his name is, hell of a kick, dude. That was awesome.
They got fined $100,000 because they rushed the field too.
Good. I bet it was worth every penny. That was a hell of a win for them. Good for them. Okay, guys, let's move on to our game of the week. There is a lot of options this week. This is a incredibly stacked slate of games.
Yeah.
Brandon,
real quick,
kick
Doug.
us off. What?
Real quick, Doug, that guy you're talking about, Harrison Mevis, is the guy who hit that 61-yard field goal.
Shout out. Massive shout out. Stones on that guy for 61 yards. Impressive.
It was a redemption from last year.
Yeah, good for him. Good for him. Thank you for dropping that in there, Caleb. Appreciate that. Let's look ahead. Massive slate of games. Massive slate. I'm so pumped to have 3 TVs on this weekend. Brandon, what is your game of the week?
You're probably gonna like this. I think the North Dakota. I almost said North Dakota. Wow, Notre Dame and Ohio State game is really going to be something else.
Top 10 matchup.
Yeah, it really should be, and they're playing at Notre Dame too. We're really gonna see two star-studded offensive powers go at it, because defensively they're right. When you got offensive guys that can outscore anybody on the field at any point in time, what do you need a defense for?
Yeah, Notre Dame versus Ohio State, number 6 versus number 9. If you go on the AP, obviously, it's just got big time game all over it. Caleb, game of the week. What do you got?
Yeah, that's a good one to go with, and just to have some diversity with some of these big matchups we got. I'm going with the Colorado-Oregon game. That we just talked about. That game could have big implications for Colorado, or Oregon could come in and really close the door and say, hey, you're not quite here yet, so we're still top of the Pac-12. So I think that game could be an interesting to watch. It's primetime CBS 2:30, so it's going to be across the country. So all eyes are going to be on that game at 2:30.
3:30 Eastern, if you guys care. My game of the week, you guys both picked good ones. If you saw on YouTube earlier this week, I did a little 3-part series on these games of the week. Since you guys already established those good games, I'm going to go with Ole Miss versus Alabama. I think this is a very important game in the SEC. 2 top 15 teams, a really good offense in Ole Miss versus an Alabama team that squeaked by South Florida last week. Caleb, you got a little more experience down south. Alabama's going to have to do a really good job of keeping Ole Miss off the scoreboard to make this, because that offense isn't good. The Bama offense isn't good yet. Milroe is a good athlete, but he doesn't play quarterback well yet. I'm sure eventually his athleticism will catch up to the rest of his game, and he'll be able to do this. But right now, I'm not confident in him or the O-line, and it's going to take a really strong rushing attack from Alabama and good defense to hold Ole Miss down. I think that game's got heavy implications going forward in the SEC. It's an important game. What do you think, Caleb, about Ole Miss and Alabama this weekend?
It's definitely, like we said, it's a big game. Oh, I guess we got lost Brendan.
He'll be back. We're good. Keep rolling.
But so yeah, it's going to be a big game for sure. Conference-wise, I mean, you see Alabama struggling this year, really unlike we've seen before. In the
Mhm.
past, they have a loss like they did against Texas. Well, they come out the next week and just obliterate whoever they played. That wasn't the case this week. They went down to South Florida, really struggled, played two different quarterbacks. You had Tyler Buckner get the start, the Notre Dame transfer, really struggle. They bring in Ty Simpson, another guy that struggled as well. They, like we said, they squeaked out of there with a win. And, Jackson Dart's been playing fantastic. Kiffin has this Ole Miss team rolling. It's an interesting matchup for sure. I think you got to look at the offense of Ole Miss versus the defense of Alabama, and it's a lot of things. It takes a lot to want to bet against a Saban coach team, but if this year is the year for somebody to go in.
No, that's great. Well said. Brandon, we lost you there for a second. Welcome back.
Yeah, my internet went out. It kicked out.
Yeah, it looks like you're having a little bit of connectivity issue, but glad to have you back in here. Guys, let's jump ahead to our picks for this week. We still follow the ESPN college pick'em for our games to pick this week. Guys, we'll get Brandon's picks as he comes back. Caleb, our first game to pick this week, Auburn versus Texas A&M. Who do you got?
Yeah, as we get started this week, I noticed it was a heavy SEC slate of games in the pick'em this week. When you look at this matchup, really both teams have question marks. As A&M came in, a lot of optimism, had that game against Miami where they did not look great.
No.
Auburn's got a first-year head coach with Hugh Freeze coming back. They've had their ups and downs. But in this game, I'm going to have to go with Texas A&M just because they've got the establishment. Jimbo's there. They got new coordinator in Petrino. Hugh Freeze is trying to start building back this program. And from what I've seen these first few weeks, sure, A&M struggled against Miami, but I think they pulled one out here in this game.
Okay. Brandon, Texas A&M versus Auburn. Who you got?
So I'm gonna go the opposite, not because I need to get a point back, but I don't think Texas A&M is as good as we think they are. I think Auburn's going to come into this game at 3-0. They're going to come in ready to go, being on the road as well. It's a big game for them as a program. So if they can knock off somebody like Texas A&M, go to 4-0. It'll be a big change for their program if they're able to get that going.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Texas A&M also. I think it's really this is put up or shut up time for the Texas A&M program. Let's get this Auburn win and let's start building something here. The Miami game was a letdown. We all know that. It's time to put it together and start winning some of these games. Being more competitive in the SEC every season, and it starts now. I'm going to take Texas A&M to win this game. Next game, big game down in the ACC, Florida State versus Clemson. Brandon, who you got?
So, yeah, Florida State's coming off probably one of the probably worst second half performance because they were winning 29 to 30 to 3. Yeah. It was 30 to 3 at halftime or something like that too. This is a tough one because I think Clemson can pull an upset here and take down Florida State. I think Boston College possibly exposed some of the flaws of Florida State in how Clemson. Dabo Swinney's a guy that can pick apart teams like that if they get exposed. So I'm gonna go Clemson on this one. I think that they're playing in Clemson too. It's a tough place to play.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I think of the struggles last week that FSU had, I think Clemson could take this one.
Okay, Caleb, what are your thoughts? Looks like Brandon's picking Clemson. I like it.
Yeah, so, this is an interesting game for sure. I feel like the ACC, in a sense, Clemson's having an Alabama similar type of season where they're struggling, and they're not looking like the typical Clemson team that you've seen year in and year out. Yeah, Florida State came out and struggled last week, But, if they're really going to maintain that number 4 ranking, I think that coaching staff is going to look at that film and work on getting that defense figured out. So in this one, I'm going to go Florida State. They're going to. I think you're starting to see maybe the decline of Clemson. Sure, if they win, prove me wrong. But as of right now, I'm going to take Florida State.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with you on that, Caleb. I'm picking Florida State. I mentioned this on Twitter. I viewed it as more of a red flag than a full panic. I'm not going to break up with Florida State yet, just over one red flag. But I feel like there was a little bit of let up, take your foot off the gas. This is Boston College type attitude more than Boston College is on our level type thing.
Right.
And Boston College they didn't have anything to lose when they're down 31-10. So they're just, balls to the wall type situation. So I think Florida State's better than Clemson.
That's how I feel with Clemson though, is they have nothing to lose right now.
Okay. So I like that.
Game, nothing to lose. If they win, they should get popped back into the top 25.
That's totally, if you beat the number 4 team, you should be in the top 20. So I'm with you on that, but I'm going to stick with Florida State. I think Duke really showed a nice formula to beat Clemson. And I think Florida State has the players, if not even better players than Duke does, to do that same thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Florida State also. Next game is number 22 UCLA versus number 11 Utah. This is this is a dark horse type game of the week situation. I think they were probably the 4th best game of the week, in my opinion. Caleb, who we got, UCLA or Utah?
Yeah, when you look at this is a Utah team that's had success so far this season without their starting quarterback in Cam Rising.
Right.
I think it's just a matter of time till they get him back.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked in deep enough to see what the expectation is right now. He could be getting close. This is a UCLA team that has a young quarterback at the helm. And with this game being in Utah, I think I'm going to go with the Utes in this one.
Mm-hmm.
At home, we saw it week 1. That's a crazy environment, where they had Florida at home. So in this one, I've got to give it to Utah in this one. They hold that number 11 status and, keep winning until they can get, their guy Cam Rising back.
Yeah. Caleb, same thing, or Brandon, same thing. Who we got? Utah, UCLA.
Yeah, it's got to be Utah from everything I've heard that Cam's going to be back this week, because they went from a 4.5 favorite to a 6.5 point favorite just today. So from the sounds of it, it sounds like he's going to be back. He should play. He should be in the lineup for this game against UCLA. And then back to the thing that we were talking about a while ago with Colorado is Utah's another team in the Pac-12 that they would have to play or beat to get to the college. It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
And Utah gives everybody problems no matter what.
Yeah.
They're just so good. So you're going Utah also.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also going to pick Utah. And I got to say, I think I would probably pick Utah even if Cam Rising wasn't playing.
Yeah.
I thought Nate Johnson, the backup quarterback, I thought he's played good football in his time playing. I know they've kind of gone with a little 2 quarterback system while Cam Rising's been gone. I think that Nate Johnson kid is pretty electric in my opinion. But with Cam Rising back, your offense opens up so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Like UCLA, young quarterback, it's just a tall task to beat Utah at home right now. So I think, we're all going Utah here. Next game is another game, just a high-profile game, Ole Miss versus Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb, you live it, you breathe it. Tell us who wins this game.
Yeah, this is a big game, especially when you talk about conference-wise. I think, you've looked at it all season long, and from what you see, it looks like right now both the East and West are wide open. Just from all these years in the SEC, watching it, playing it, this is a close game. I think if any year is the year to do it, this year will be for the year for Ole Miss to come into Tuscaloosa and do it. But I've learned I'm not going to pick against Nick Saban and a team that they're really struggling, backs against the wall. And I think after last week, Nick Saban's going to have this team fired up and say, guys, we're not going to come back home and lose another game in Tuscaloosa this season. So, give me Alabama in this one.
Okay, Brandon, same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. You kind of stole what I was going to say there at the end. Is that Alabama doesn't lose 2 straight games in Tuscaloosa,
Mhm.
so it's going to be a tough one. And again, from the sounds of it, sounds like they had a little team meeting, hashed a lot of stuff out. That was sounds like stuff was going on in the locker room. So hopefully they have that all hashed out and they'll be good to go. I could see this one turning ugly if Alabama gets things rolling.
Okay. As Lee Corso would say, not so fast, my friends. Ole Miss, I got them getting this. I got them pulling the upset. This is the time right now to strike. If I'm Lane Kiffin and I'm Ole Miss and I get the ball first play, I'm Jackson Dart and I'm throwing it deep and I'm trying to send a message right away in this game. I'm testing Alabama's defense, and if I'm the Ole Miss defense and Alabama gets the ball first, I'm rushing 4 or 5 guys right off the bat. I'm sending the house at them. I want Milroe to be uncomfortable at all times, and we know the Alabama O line has some trouble. Put pressure on those guys right away to start the game, and I think that's a recipe to pull the upset. It's still an upset to beat Alabama, so I'm going Ole Miss to win this game. Next game, Kansas versus BYU, 2-3-0 teams. BYU coming off a good win. The Jayhawks themselves, got a good win also. Brandon, who we got, BYU or Kansas?
Yeah, this should be a pretty solid game.
Yeah.
Overall, I mean it's 2-3-0 teams that are trying to define themselves and where they are as a college football program. Kansas being 2 years ago probably one of the worst college. One of the worst Power 5 schools outside of maybe Rutgers, in the nation to turn things around that quickly and to be 3-0. And I'm going to go Kansas at home.
Yep. Caleb, same question.
Yeah, for sure. This is an interesting matchup. This is BYU's first season in the Big 12.
Yeah.
They're have their first conference game this week. They got the win against us last week. I don't want to discount their win. They got a win over SEC program. We're still trying to figure things out, but
right.
I think this is the real test for me to see just really is BYU underrated this year in terms of Big 12 first year in the conference. We mentioned transfer portals. They got a guy that has been experienced in the Pac-12 and other conferences in Slovis. But I'm going to go with Kansas in this one. But if BYU comes out and proves me wrong, maybe they can have some competition in the Big 12.
Yeah, that's well said. Because in my opinion, this is your first Big 12 game. You come in and win this game, you put people on notice. So yeah, no, this is a massive game for them. So I think this is a must-win situation for BYU. Say hi. Say hi. All right, go. Thank you. But yeah, must-win situation for BYU. But in my opinion, I think Kansas still gets it done and wins the game. Next game on the list for us, this is the Washington State versus Oregon State game. Another just badass game, man. It doesn't stop this week. I'm going to start. I'm taking Washington State. Cam Ward, I think, is phenomenal. I love the way he plays football. Oregon State, though, is uber talented. It's a coin flip for me, but I'm going to go with Washington State. Brandon, who you got?
I'm going to go Oregon State on this one. I think their run game is going to be tough. I don't remember who I was watching them play the other day. I think it was 2 weeks ago. But overall, they're a very fundamentally sound football team. Who are going to they'll give Washington State some troubles this week. So I'm going to go Oregon State.
Caleb, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it all episode about these are the 2 remaining teams in the Pac-12. Well, here they are this week, battling it out. Kind of following up what Brandon said, I'm going to go Oregon State in this one. I really love Damian Martinez, the running back. He's been playing incredible this season so far. And they've got DJ Uyunglele, who is an experienced quarterback, played in the ACC with Clemson. got a fresh start here at Oregon State. So give me Oregon State in this one.
Yeah, no, I understand the pick.
Go Beavs.
DJ and Martinez is a really nice combo in the backfield, but it's hard to sling the ball like Cam Ward, guys.
Yeah.
It's hard to throw the ball that well. But I do understand the picks. Let's move on to the next game. My Ohio State Buckeyes at number 6 versus Notre Dame at number 9. Caleb, who are you picking in this one?
Yeah, this is a really interesting matchup because you've got Ohio State, a team that's always good, always has talent. You guys have struggled a little bit at, to me, in the quarterback position this year, not the strongest room. As in the past, you've had guys like Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, guys like that have put up insane numbers going up against Notre Dame, a team that's usually really good and sometimes struggles in big games, have a really good quarterback. We're 3 weeks in, he's already thrown for over 1,000 yards in the first 3 weeks of college football.
Yeah.
Knows how to sling the ball, 13 touchdowns. This is a big game for both schools, for Notre Dame to come in and, being an independent school to come out and beat one of these Power 5 schools. You guys to come in and, say, hold up, wait a minute, we're still, we're at number 6. We're number 6 for a reason. With this game, I'm actually going to flip it here. I'm going to go Notre Dame in this one. Sam Hartman's been balling, all season, and give me the Irish in this one.
Okay. All right. Brandon, what do we got?
I hate to disappoint you.
Mutiny. This is mutiny. Mutiny afoot.
That Notre Dame offense is
I'm more worried about the running back than
monster.
I'm more worried about the running back than Hartman.
Yeah.
Their running back is really good.
It's like a 3-headed monster Notre Dame has right now. With the quarterback, running back, and I think it's the one right receiver that they have too, who's good. I'm sorry to break your heart, but I have to go Notre Dame. It's a home game for Notre Dame too. It's hard to win there.
Not so fast, my friends. Ohio State. I know Notre Dame is really good.
Yeah,
I get it.
Ohio State's good too. That's the thing.
But I think top to bottom, they're better than us at 2 positions. It's quarterback and it's running back. I think we're good enough everywhere else to make up for some of those deficiencies. I think McCord found himself a little bit last week against Western Kentucky. They let him air the ball out more. They let him actually throw the ball downfield. We've still got the best 2 receivers in the game right now. I think we've got enough to get it done. I think it's a close game. I'm going to go Ohio State 35, Notre Dame 28. I think it's a touchdown type game, very close. Could even be closer than that, but it's going to be a really good game. I'm really excited to watch this game on Saturday.
I was really wrong about the Western Kentucky Ohio State game, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know what you're going for there, but I'm glad you were wrong.
I didn't think it was going to be 63-7.
It's your fault that game got out of control. Next game is Brandon, your Missouri Tigers versus the Memphis Tigers.
Yeah.
Does anybody have Memphis winning?
Hold on. So this is where I come in the predicament. So I picked against Mizzou last week.
Yeah.
And they won.
Okay. I
don't think
you need to go against them this week, as Memphis is 3-0, but I think it's a different 3-0 than Missouri's 3-0.
Fair enough.
I think we're all taking Missouri here. I think so.
They should. So Luther Burden, Brady Cook homecoming at the Dome in St. Louis. The places, if you haven't been there for a football game, it gets absolutely ruckus in there. If you get the right crowd, and this Mizzou team is exciting. They're fun to watch right now. So that the Dome will be rocking Saturday night, and it'll be a fun one because it's a Saturday night game in St. Louis.
Yeah. Caleb, anything to add?
Here's a question for you guys. The spread is 6.5 for Missouri, and Brady Cook is questionable. If he doesn't play, does that change your predictions?
No.
I don't think
I'm going
so.
Missouri to cover. Even if he's out, I'm taking him to cover.
Because even the backup guy, I think he's the guy. He's shucks. I want to say his name is Sam.
Let me
He's a
look real
baseball player
quick.
too. He's the pitcher.
The backup for Mizzou is
I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Sam Horn.
Sam Horn. Yeah, he's not a bad quarterback either. He's come in when he needs to, and he'll throw the ball around.
Serviceable for sure.
I don't
Yeah,
think
even if he's out, Caleb, I'm taking the over. I'm hammering it. I think they're just better. They're going to be more physical than Memphis. I think it's going to be a long night for the Memphis Tigers. Next game for us, the UCF Knights versus Kansas State. Kansas State coming off that last-second loss to Missouri. Maybe some lingering effects of a loss like that. Caleb, does UCF beat Kansas State this week?
I think Kansas State bounces back here with a win. UCF comes in undefeated. It's going to be an interesting game for sure. Like you said, that was a super close game between those two teams. With it being back in Kansas State, in the Little Apple, I think I'm going with Kansas State in this one. They're going to come back out and, say, sure, we got beat last week, but, we're still a top football team.
Okay. Brandon, same question.
I might have to go Kansas State in this one. I think they'll just be too much for UCF is a solid program, but I think they'll end up being too much for them. Side note, our kid Austin is he's starting this Saturday against
That's
UCF.
awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Good for him.
It's pretty cool.
Give us an update on his numbers and everything because I know you'll be paying attention to that. That's really cool. I'm going to take Kansas State also, bounce back. They got to be physical. They got to get out there and be physical with UCF, set a tone. And, I expect them to win this game a little more comfortably after last week's loss. Last game of the week for us, pick'em wise, the number 17 North Carolina Tar Heels versus the Pitt Panthers. I don't think Pitt's very good. I'm taking North Carolina by a wide margin. Brandon, what do you got there?
Yeah, Pitt doesn't stand a chance.
No.
UNC all the way.
How much do you think North Carolina wins by?
18.
Caleb, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going Drake May in North Carolina. He's just so good this season so far. He's, maybe not struggled a little bit in, numbers wise, but this team is still undefeated. He's still a great quarterback. Give me North Carolina in this one.
Yeah, I've got North Carolina. Like I said, wide margin. All right, guys, that's everything for our picks. Caleb, Brandon, you guys got anything else before we get out of here tonight?
Yeah, go ahead, Caleb. You're fine. You can go first.
I was going to say just, it's could be an interesting game. Don't sleep on the Arkansas LSU game. It's always a good game between the two teams. No matter each team struggles, it seems when these two teams come together and clash, it's always a big, great game. So Death Valley at night, we went down there 2 years ago, got the win in overtime. I'm hoping this is a bounce back win for us. This is a typical thing as an Arkansas fan. We lose a game we're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Last week, watch us come out this week, get some things figured out, and really test LSU and hopefully come out with a win here.
Okay. Yep. Brandon, what do you got before we got out of here?
To talk about Arkansas, so they get the ESPN SEC night game special this week. So that's always a fun one. No, I think this week of college football outside of possibly the college football playoffs is going to be the most exciting week of football we might see the rest of the season. There's so many great matchups right away. Even if you're looking at like the Memphis Mizzou game, like it might not be top of the radar, but it's still 2-3-0 teams going against each other. Oregon State, Washington State, the same thing. They may not be those big powerhouse teams that we constantly think about or look at, but this schedule that's been put together is something else.
Great point, guys. Great job tonight. Everybody, go over, check out Variety Sports Network on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram. We are all over the place. We are hammering content out every day of the week. There is always something for you guys to listen to. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, the follow button. We all follow back. We're trying to build something here. We appreciate all the support. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep making this better. Brandon, shout out for all your hard work, man, working on all these shows and doing a great job. Reward that hard work with a subscription. Guys, we will see you next week to recap a fantastic week of college football. See you guys next week.
Don't forget to check out Home Field. It's pretty cool stuff.
Home Field, 15% off, all caps, Variety Sports.
Yep.
Hey, this is Brandon, CEO of the Variety Sports Network. Thank you again for watching tonight's show. Best way you can support us is by hitting that subscribe button, that like button, and hitting the notification so you don't miss out on the next show right here on the Variety Sports Network.